Hey, everybody. It's Big News Wednesday. Welcome, one and all, to another episode of The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and it being Big Wednesday and Big News Wednesday and all, gotta give the full respect to the name of the show. Sharon joins us once again. Sharon, I was saying before the show started, I feel like we just signed off Big News Wednesday last week. How is it another Wednesday already?
Because this is the pace that we're moving at in this Trump second administration, where it's going lightning speed. If we could only get to the end, that would be great.
Yeah. Speed running the apocalypse. That's very fun. You get more achievement points for that. So thank you, Trump, for not wasting our time. You're just wasting everything else. But anyway, we are going to be talking about that, about Trump's latest power grabs, a ton happening in that area just since yesterday. The war that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are waging on the very basic concept of government transparency. You don't get to know anything about what's going on, both in what they're hiding and the people they're firing that are supposed to be there so that we know what's going on, and also the lies they're telling about the cuts that they're making and what they're really spending the money on. Some of that in the show, some of that in the aftermath. So if you're listening on the podcast, as always, go to youtube.com/The Damage Report to watch the clips from the rest of the show. But there is obviously a lot to talk about. So hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments or tweets or super chats. You just might earn yourself a $100 Blue Apron gift card. And with all that said, Sharon, are you ready to do this thing?
I am. I feel like you've had extra caffeine. I don't even know if you partake in caffeine, or maybe you just seem extra excited.
This is my caffeine right now, and it's a photo of me and JR's dog Sprocket.
Oh, hi Sprocket. That's a big mug.
Yes. Oh, and also ceasefire, a thing we wanted, but we didn't want to get it by just deporting every single person on one side of the conflict. So maybe we should have been more specific. In any event, we will also be talking about another conflict on today's show. So lots to talk about. We'll see how my energy lasts. Maybe I'll crash. We'll find out together. But let's jump into this first topic. Donald Trump launched his most recent power grab over the last 24 hours, setting us up inevitably for a massive decision by the Supreme Court. Do we have a president, as we've known him under both Republican and Democratic administrations throughout our life? Or do we have a king that cannot be bound by anything? Laws passed by Congress, past precedent, the courts, the Supreme Court itself? We're gonna find out. And so in this update on the power grab, the speed run towards an authoritarian form of American government, he has effectively taken all of those independent bodies in the executive branch that presidents don't meddle in, that if Joe Biden had ever meddled in, Republicans would have lost their GD minds. That's done. We're done with that. He now has ultimate control over all of that. Technically, it'll basically be Elon Musk, but he gets to sit behind the desk and he moves the pen on the pieces of paper. But the independence is gone. And so the executive order that Trump signed requires independent agencies to submit their proposed regulations to the White House for review. So now they're no longer regulations that these independent agencies can pursue compliant with the laws passed by Congress. Now, you can propose regulations to us and we'll let you know what we'll allow you to do. They've asserted a power to block such agencies from spending funds on projects or efforts that conflict with presidential priorities, even if, again, it's laws passed by Congress, which has the power of the purse, or at least it used to, not so much anymore. Now the president decides. Congress, it's like the House of Lords. It's a formal thing. It's old timey, retro, vintage even. It doesn't have any power anymore, even though he already controls the Senate and the House. Doesn't matter. They have no power anymore either. It also declares that they must accept the president and the Justice Department's interpretation of the law as binding. So it doesn't matter if what Trump or the DOJ in this case, the Attorney General, are saying is obviously explicitly unconstitutional. You guys don't get to decide anything anymore. The independence is gone. And that includes some pretty important bodies, the Securities and Exchange Commission. I wonder why Donald Trump and his political movement would want to have control over the SEC. Maybe we'll find out. The Federal Trade Commission, the FEC, the Federal Communications Commission as well. Probably want to have tight grip of control over that. If you're going to start pulling the broadcast licenses of media outlets that don't report the news the way you like, you want to be able to control that pretty closely. The National Labor Relations Board as well. Screw the workers. We're done with even pretending that the government gives a damn about working Americans. They're gonna crush that. And it also applies, at least in part as of right now, to the Federal Reserve, which covers issues related to supervision and regulation of Wall Street, but exempts its decisions related to monetary policy, like raising and lowering interest rates. So they're not yet taking unilateral control over that, which Trump on the campaign trail said he would like to do, so that might come now. But no, for right now, their regulation and supervision of Wall Street, that's up to Donald Trump or Elon Musk or whichever other billionaires are in his cabinet, and they have, I don't know, over $500 billion between them, decides. And so the Federal Reserve, which used to maybe occasionally check the worst excesses of the elites in our society, that's done too. The billionaires are wholly in charge. And here's a little bit from the actual executive order. So you can see how 1984ian this entire thing is. For the federal government to be truly accountable to the American people, they left out the word billionaire, which was a nice touch on their behalf. They're pretending it's for all the people. Officials who wield vast executive power must be supervised and controlled by the people's elected president. Therefore, in order to improve the administration of the executive branch and to increase regulatory officials' accountability to the American people, it shall be the policy of the executive branch to ensure presidential supervision and control of the entire executive branch. Again, it doesn't matter if what he's doing when he exerts his power is wildly unpopular. The whole accountability to the American people thing, again, as we've been saying, that's branding, that's eat fresh. It's not accountable to the American people who gave Donald Trump the narrowest popular vote win in decades. It's accountable to Donald Trump and the billionaires, including Elon Musk, who put him in power. There's a little bit of like window dressing, wrapping paper of accountability to people. But what about the Congress that got elected, remember, by the American people, that passed the laws that funded these agencies, set them up, made them independent in the first place? Does that count for anything? No, obviously not. And again, can you imagine if Joe Biden had done anything? Can you imagine if Kamala Harris had swept into office and decided, you know what, all these independent bodies, we're done with that. I'm gonna crush it under my heel. I now control it for the American people, I mean. Oh yeah, I'm sure Fox News would have been like, that is accountability. That's responsibility. We're fine with that. So no, obviously this is utterly hypocritical in comparison to everything that they've done under previous administrations. And we'll have to see. Since we now have a unitary executive branch, that's the previously wild theory behind all of this that is now gonna be tested by the Supreme Court. Do all of these powers someday get transferred over to President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Does she get to decide maybe when interest rates go up and down? Does she get to decide that we're gonna do way harsher restrictions on Wall Street? Because the right is telling us that is the just and due powers owed to our executive, owed to our president. And so maybe that's Bernie Sanders, maybe that's Elizabeth Warren, maybe that's AOC, maybe that's Ilhan freaking Omar. We'll see what the right thinks about that. But Sharon, we've got more to come with firings and all that. In terms of the power grab though, what do you think about this?
Well, number one, the fantasy of Kamala Harris in a Louis Vuitton and just, stamping right there is a beautiful thing. It's orgasmic. But listen, precedent is what it is. And if you allow Trump to continue to do this, then you do not have any right. It's not about this whole consent and this whole thing that the Senate is supposed to do. It's gonna be whatever the president says. We saw that when W and his administration invaded Iraq. We saw that after 9/11, where everyone just kind of signed off carte blanche on, we're taking away all freedoms. Here's what we're doing. We're gonna spy on you. We're gonna listen on your phone calls. Everything is on the table and you don't get to object because it's all under the guise of keeping you safe. And what exactly am I keeping you safe from? After a while, it doesn't even matter. So listen, you better fight back now, okay? You better stand up and fight and not just leave it up to Mitch McConnell, who created this on the Republican side, to now say, I dissent and I don't agree and this kind of thing. This is ridiculous, but this is where we are. Why bother having a Senate?
I don't know. And why these senators are on average 105 years old, and they've theoretically worked their entire lives to have these positions that they have now handed over all the power to Donald Trump and to Elon Musk. And they're seemingly perfectly fine with that. And in Congress as well. And again, as I said previously on the show, if anyone was gonna declare themselves a rightful dictator, because the American people support us so much, they have the narrowest margin in the House in, I believe, a century. He had the narrowest margin in the popular vote. If he believes that he is owed a dictatorship, then Joe Biden deserved 4 dictatorships, which, by the way, I will remind you, they said Joe Biden did. They said Barack Obama and Joe Biden were dictators. Why? Barack Obama did admittedly wear a tan suit, and that was, I think, an overstepping of the bounds of reason. And Joe Biden did allow vaccines to be sold. I guess that's dictator stuff, but can you imagine? Can you imagine if they'd done this stuff? And Trump, by the way, he's formalizing it with this executive order. He's already been breaking the law by firing members of these independent agencies. This isn't a hypothetical thing where, oh, maybe we're gonna have a constitutional crisis. We're weeks deep in one. The National Labor Relations Board members, by law, cannot simply be fired for whatever reason you want. He broke the law by doing that. Now, it doesn't matter, because he controls the DOJ, so they're not going to actually enforce the law. Again, Donald Trump brings nothing but crime and chaos as president. And the Senate and the House aren't going to do any investigations until they're thrown out of power and we replace them with somebody who actually cares about our system of government and checks and balances. And so this is a wild and lawless and, yes, tyrannical presidency. We have never seen a president in my lifetime take any of these moves, let alone all of them in 1 month. This is going in the exact direction that we said it would, only much faster than we thought that it might. And by the way, I'll just throw in another thing. He also, Truth Socialed this morning, they're firing all of the US attorneys, not just the ones that were assigned to investigate the cases of the crimes he 100% committed, all of them. They're just wiping out all of them. And again, what would Fox News have said if Joe Biden had done that and said, you know what, they're probably corrupt. I don't like them, they were under Trump, they're gone. They'd be like, no, this is to protect Hunter Biden. And you know what? If they had cried about that, which they would have for 3.5 years straight, they would have been right to, because this is unacceptable, except that they are accepting it. So let's move on to, that's Trump. Let's see what the House is going to do. They have to fill their day with something, and since passing laws is utterly irrelevant, they're gonna put pressure on the only people who hold any power, which is the executive branch. So let's turn now to this. Right-wing media, as well as Republicans in Congress, are now lining up behind the move to investigate and possibly lock up anyone who tells people their rights. They previously used to pretend that they cared about rights. Rights were super important, but the Constitution is now garbage. It's toilet paper to the right. They don't give a damn about it. And so how dare you even bring it up? So impolite of you. And so if you're a member of the media, if you're an activist, if you're an NGO, if you're a member of Congress, and you tell people their actual rights, they want you locked up. And the Daily Caller just has they're practically masturbating as they are posting this. There's no criticism whatsoever. If we bring up this front page, House Republicans urge Pam Bondi to prosecute officials and left-wing activists subverting deportation efforts. And so they'll say, far-left politicians and NGOs are flouting the law under the assumption that it will not be enforced. We ask that you demonstrate that such violations will not be tolerated. Well, first of all, if they were breaking the law because they thought it wouldn't be enforced, you'd have to forgive them. Laws are very rarely being enforced these days. It's kind of the theme of 2025. That said, what law are they violating? I don't know. Daily Caller's not saying. House Republicans who wrote this letter to Pam Bondi aren't saying. In fact, they're being pretty clear that the law isn't being broken because they're not even saying it's being broken. They're saying they're flouting the law. Oh no, don't flout. Not with an economy like this, you can't go around flouting. And so the letter doesn't specifically name AOC, but we know that this is what this is about. And so we're gonna get to her in a sec, but just to be clear, Daily Caller, which for years would have prided itself as being pro-constitution and your rights and your freedoms and your liberties, and the government is tyrannical and you have to fight against them. You might have to shoot them all in the head. Now, oh, you said something that's totally fine under the law, but it kind of like hampers Trump a little bit because there's women selling empanadas that we need to send to Latin America or whatever. You're going to jail, okay? Freedom of speech, forget that. That's for calling people the N-word on Twitter. It's not for letting people know what their rights are. No, you can call someone an R-word or something. That's good freedom of speech stuff. But a congressperson making sure that people know their rights as a dictator comes into his power, that's obviously unacceptable and you should be locked up. And look at the little cover story they provide for it. Tom Homan He went on Fox News and said, let's hope she's not educating the next person who gets out and murders a young college student in Georgia. These are bad people we're looking for. Yeah, are those people you're deporting? What about the middle school science teacher? Oh no, he might have gotten advice from AOC. What about the empanada woman? What about the kids that were deported in that particular case? Again, why don't you talk about the people you're actually deporting rather than these boogeymen that you're just making up? But of course, they're not going to. They're trying to scare people into compliance. And this is, I'll close on this, I apologize, I'm talking a lot, it's a big topic. For decades, the right was saying the government is going to come and they're going to take your rights and they're going to try to get you to surrender them. They're going to beat you into submission, they're going to use propaganda, they're going to fearmonger to you so that you hand over your rights. What the F do you think this is? They do not want you to know your actual rights. They want to lock people up for educating you about them and to get you to lie down, face and lips pressed against the dirt. They're gonna fearmonger about, oh, you'll probably be murdered by a Guatemalan. That's it. Give up all your rights. Screw the Constitution. Bill of Rights, antiquated because there's scary Hondurans around. And unfortunately, there are millions of people perfectly ready to hand over their rights under that. Sharon, again, I apologize.
No, don't.
I gotta, what do you think about this? Give me your thoughts.
Spot on. You're right. They told us forever. They're taking your guns. They're doing this and that. They're stealing your children and turning them trans. Build a bunker, have powdered milk and rations and things. They really want you in the bunker and to not engage at all. Just pay taxes so they can steal it. I love what AOC did here. Bring it on. I'm not afraid of you. Indict me. Do it. You are a loser. She basically called him out, this Holman guy who admits to conspiracies and collusion on Fox News pretty much daily, okay? He's not been able to round up all of these illegals, with the air quotes, because there's not that many and because this was all a scam. It's a scam. They're hurting people for sure. They are getting people for sure, not violent criminals. This guy is a loser. I'm with AOC. Bring it on. Let's go ahead and make her the test case. Indict her. Let's see what happens here. Go ahead and do it.
100%. And if AOC decides to take that role even more than she already has, then I think she's gonna find that she has a lot of people supporting her. I want her to do that. I want her to stand up against Donald Trump more than any of the other Democrats. I mean, she basically already is, but even more than she is now. I also at the same time have been calling for her to institute an informal coup against the Democratic Party and declare herself their spokesperson as well, because that is what she is. We might as well formalize it. And I know, with what counts for, like the actual laws mean nothing, and things that aren't violations of the law now could land you in jail forever. Again, chaos and crime is what we get with Donald Trump as president. I know that there's probably some concern, like if you stand up against them, what might happen? But I would remind AOC that she who saves her country violates no law. I keep telling myself that, and I'm pretty sure Napoleon agreed. Anyway, with that said, why don't we move to one more topic to close out what the executive branch has been up to. In an absolutely brazen assault on the very basic concept of government transparency, the Trump administration has secretly purged key privacy officials from the federal hiring office because evidently there's some stuff in there they don't want you to know about. And so you're not going to. We can speculate, but we don't have access to that information anymore. It's been there for decades and decades. There used to be that transparency. There isn't because they don't want you to see what they're doing. And so CNN is doing this reporting. They were first notified of the firings at the Office of Personnel Management in response to a Freedom of Information Act request for records related to the security clearances of Elon Musk and anyone with a Department of Government Efficiency who've been granted access to sensitive or classified government networks. You have to have those security clearances to access this information. That's how it has always worked before. So we want to make sure that they have it. Most normal, basic journalism ever. They got an email from an OPM email address that said, good luck with that. They just fired the whole privacy team. So the privacy team is gone. In addition to that, members of the OPM's communications staff, as well as individuals who handle FOIA requests, were also fired. And if this is reminding you of anything, it's probably of what Elon Musk did to Twitter after he took over. So their media relations department no longer responded to concerns or questions or clarifications or anything like that. They would just send a poop emoji back. Now, I know right-wingers thought that was really funny because screw the media. This is not just screw the media. This is not just screw CNN. This is screw any of you who want to get information out of the government. It is now completely blocked off. There's a lead shell over all of this. Freedom of Information Act requests, effectively, as of right now, do not exist. And I know what you're wondering. What is Ken Klippenstein going to do? And I don't know. I'm imagining there will probably still be a lot of independent leaks. But your ability as an individual American citizen or a member of the media, whether mainstream media or an independent member of the media, left-wing, centrist, or right-wing, you are now banned from the government. You can't get this information anymore. And by the way, the concerns over transparency go beyond just, hey, do they actually have legal clearance to see this stuff? Carolyn Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, was asked, so if Elon Musk is not in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, which you said he's not, who is in charge? She refused to say. Now, I keep hearing from Elon Musk, this is radical transparency, radical transparency. Are you actually allowed to say that? Because apparently you have some other boss at DOGE and we don't even know who they are. No, but think about that. You're telling us we have transparency. We literally do not get to know who's in charge of the organization. And this follows a couple weeks ago when they tried to find out who is actually working there. And he declared that if you identify them by name, you've broken the law, despite the fact that he's been doing that exact same thing for literally months. So not only are they getting in these systems, God knows what they're doing all this damage. We're gonna have an interview tomorrow to actually try to figure some of that out. You don't get to know who it is. And so spare me all the transparency. And by the way, look, I'm feeling kind of ignorant. I've been blocked out of all this information, but at least I'm in good company because Donald Trump doesn't seem to know much about what's going on either. He apparently just heard that Elon Musk has billions of dollars in contracts with the agencies he's regulating. He didn't know that. He didn't know that. Now, in his defense, he's lying. That's his defense. He's not actually, you could not possibly be as ignorant as you're pretending to be there. Dear God, can you imagine if Joe Biden said something like that? Who is actually president right now? He has no idea what his real vice president, Elon Musk, is up to and how he stands to financially gain. And then when they asked him about the fact that they had said that Elon Musk isn't an actual employee of DOGE, he just rambled. He didn't really know what to say. Oh, by the way, in that same interview, he was asked whether he fired the head of Social Security or if they resigned, and he didn't know. Maybe I fired him, maybe I didn't. Hey, who's the person who actually makes decisions around here? Could you take this question because I'm really in over my neck here? And so again, imagine if Joe Biden had said this stuff, what they'd been saying, what they would say about the quality and consistency of his brain. Well, I'm thinking those same things right now, Sharon. What do you make of this?
Well, I was just looking up the 25th Amendment because I think you're right. There's some mental acuity questions here that have to be addressed if he doesn't have a basic understanding of just what's going on. He's just ordering things willy-nilly, okay? Can you imagine if you did that at Starbucks or Chipotle? You're just ordering. What is it that you want to tackle here? And do you have any comprehension of what's going on? The answer is no. This whole thing about transparency where Elon, while his kid's over there doing what kids do, okay, with his nose, and saying, hey, if I run into something, I'll let you know. We're gonna make some mistakes. It's a farce. It's shenanigans. It's like the wildest roller coaster ride. It never ends, and it's not much fun.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so now we have, like, what's the status quo? Donald Trump is blatantly corrupt. He's doing business dealings with Saudi businessmen in the Oval Office to enrich himself, maybe for billions of dollars. The American people have no part in any of that. And Elon Musk is doing all this corruption, and Donald Trump doesn't seem to care, doesn't seem to know what's going on. Just, go loot the treasury. Just set up contracts for yourself. Nuke from orbit your opponents, your competitors in all these industries. I don't know and I don't care. I'm really tired. I was golfing for like hours yesterday. I'm exhausted. Could you run the government, please, Elon? Is this what the American people voted for? Based on their approval ratings of Elon Musk, I'm thinking no, actually. In any event, we do have to take our first break. Lots more to talk about, including a focus on inflation. We feel like we should focus on it. If Donald Trump isn't going to, somebody should probably talk about it. We'll have that and more for you after this. Okay, there's gonna be a show where I don't freak out as soon as it seems reasonable to not freak out. We'll see what happens. With that said, over 9,000 says practically masturbating, John. You know they're pulling a tube and oh, they were so happy. Oh God, to declare yourself a king. Oh, it feels so good to be a king. Oh, please just give me a strong man on top of me making all the decisions. Life is hard. I don't want to compete with minorities and women. That's what all these alphas sound like to me. I cannot conceive of how the idea that they're the ones with some sort of monopoly on masculinity when all they want is to be governmentally dominated by a stronger man. And the stronger man is actually utterly weak and pathetic too, to add an extra layer of irony to it. Spare me. Knuckle Dragon says, MAGA elected Dr. Evil and Mini-Me Musk. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. Well, MAGA does like Musk quite a bit. Not as much as Trump might think, not as much as Elon Musk might like. Independents though, nope. They got no interest in Elon Musk having this sort of authority. Democrats definitely don't. An electoral majority has no interest 3 weeks in what they're doing. And it's only gonna get worse, and people are gonna only get more angry. Now, that doesn't stop the damage from being done right now, but if you're looking for something to be optimistic about, it's that this, by definition, will fail. And I don't just mean in terms of delivering results for the American people, I mean electorally, politically, it will fail as well. Boomer Dragon Cat says, not sure I should comment when everything I wanna say includes numerous swear words. Yeah, I have not often really felt hemmed in by the language restrictions. But in the last few weeks, I've definitely felt it. I'm trying, they say that obstacles give rise to creativity. I'm trying to express myself in other ways, but it's difficult sometimes. Anyway, Galfar asked, have you seen the new Captain America movie yet? No, unfortunately I have not. It's tough to get out to movies with my daughter. I definitely want to. The reviews seem very middling, but I'm curious about it. I haven't seen a Marvel movie in a long time. I am going to see it. Okay, Benjamin Morrill gifted a membership. Ben not only always gives a membership, almost always is the first person to gift a membership on an individual show. So thank you for that. Dragon Dancer once again gifted a membership. Thank you. Art Vandalay again gifted a membership. Thank you so much. Kit Emery became a member. Thank you, Kit. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Dusty Jones, member for 2 full years on YouTube, says, I'm really happy to see protests across the country. I really hope we can win in 2026 and 2028. I know there are downers, but we got to keep going. I 100% agree. I also want to remind everyone, we're talking about membership. Tomorrow, 30 minutes after the close of the Aftermath, our monthly members hangout is going to happen for the tier 3 members on YouTube. We always have a lot of fun. I hope to see many of you there. Gail Hefner, member for 50 months, says I constantly flout because I can. Flouting the law. Oh, again, that language restriction on, I want to talk about these people and I feel hemmed in. Benjamin Morrill says, in a super chat, all of it so that there won't be an election in 28. John, none of these people that we want in that position will ever get a chance. Look, again, Ben, I share the concern. I share the concern about what they're gonna do in terms of elections, federally to the extent that they can. And obviously I expressed a lot of concern at the state level over the past few years. But again, what do you want me to do? Then we don't run, we don't generate candidates, we don't try, we don't put a focus. We can't do that. We have to try anyway. We have to fight so that we retake control of these things. And so that's what we're gonna do. And I know you are part of that fight, so thank you. Let's see. Queen Victoria says, I've been a patron on Peanut Butter Storytime, my Patreon, for a while. But is there a place to send stuff to help you rewrite Shadow of the Mouse Thief and send queries? That would be very helpful, actually. I mean, we do have a Discord, and you could also send me a direct message on the Patreon, and I would definitely love to take a look at that. Thank you. And thank you for reading Shadow of the Mouse Thief. Thought that said I had like 20. I thought I had like 20 seconds left in that social break. But anyway, with that said, lots to talk about. If you're just joining us now, please hit the like button and let's jump into this.
The day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. For a week. No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump inflation. I had nothing to do with it.
A little bit of a difference there. Back in the day, I'm gonna come in and day one, I'm gonna take the inflation, I'm gonna wring it to a scrawny neck, and then I'm not gonna, and then I'll throw it in different sides, and I'm gonna own this inflation. It's gonna be my economy. Golden age is here again. And now, it's the buck stops over there. Go talk to the buck. It's in the woods somewhere. I know it's back there somewhere. And so people are suffering. They were already suffering. Remember, that's why they voted in the new guys, because things were bad. And now things are badder. I don't think that's the way it was supposed to go. I don't think that's what they thought was gonna happen when they elected Donald Trump. I don't know why they would be surprised that he's running at light speed from all the promises he made. Day one action, oh, you can't wait until you see it faster than anyone's ever believed. No, now he's done. Not only is he not responding with, and we're gonna stop it, he's not even saying he's gonna fix it. He's also saying like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's Biden, that's old stuff. I don't care. I mean, remember a year ago when the stock market went up and I claimed that that was due to me, even though I hadn't been elected and wouldn't be elected for months and months and months. But now I've been president for a month. Why are you gonna put the blame on my doorstep? Unfortunately for him, we're going to. Because I didn't want Donald Trump to be president. I knew that he would fail in this way, but unfortunately he is president, and so we demand action. I demand that you fix inflation instantly. You are as responsible for it now as Joe Biden was. You told me every day that he was president. And you're failing, buddy. You didn't just fail on day one. You failed on day 2 and 3 and 4, and we're now into the 20s. And you keep failing and you keep making excuses. It's weak as hell, and we demand actual action. People are hurting, and not just libs. This isn't just in San Francisco that prices are up. They're up throughout the South. They're up throughout the Midwest. Rural farmers, MAGA, are suffering economically. Could you at least pretend to give a damn about it? But unfortunately, he can't. Now, he is taking action. Unfortunately, it's gonna make things worse. He just announced upcoming, and who knows, you can't trust anything he says, but he says, I'm gonna do additional 25% tariffs on automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and chips as well. So stuff that's already really expensive is going to be worse, maybe a quarter worse. And don't worry about the chip stuff. Those just go into everything. I'm sure that won't have any economic effects whatsoever. And so it's already bad. Inflation's already up, prices are already rising. He's not taking any responsibility, and he's not going to, even if it gets worse, and he's making sure that it will, Sharon. What do you make of this? What do you think the effect, like, do you think that people are going to wise up and start to ask tough questions about why he doesn't seem to care about this?
Sure, as they continue to be forced to eliminate things from their diet. I can't have eggs, I can't have avocados, except at an exorbitant cost. While he continues, it appears, to not miss a single meal. He's not missing a single meal in the White House, okay? While the rest of us are. I think it is gonna affect people because we're dealing with less money, less food, less everything, while he gets more bloated and makes deals with Live Golf and the Saudis. So yeah, I think eventually it shouldn't take this. It really shouldn't require this. He said he was gonna fix it day one. What he did day one was bring in Elon and his milky belly to rape our coffers, cause chaos, more court cases. And by the way, did I mention I'm still not able to eat eggs and avocado unless I want to pay a premium price, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
not going to do it.
Man, Sharon going hard today. Damn, I'm shocked.
I'm a bit much,
yeah, you guys voted for Donald Trump because things were tough and you wanted solutions. And what do you get? A situation where, like, I guess you get an egg on your birthday. You know, like a special occasion, you can have an egg or whatever. That's great. That's the golden age, I guess. Is the golden age the rare yolk sighting? Is that what he was saying this whole time? Utterly ridiculous. Please, everybody, wake up. Wake up. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't understand you. And as you said, I'm gonna maybe word it slightly differently, but when he would briefly acknowledge a price will have to be paid, does it look like he's paying it? Does it look like him or Elon Musk are tightening their belt figuratively or literally, as Sharon was getting to? No, I don't think so. Now let's jump to this. We don't know when the masses are gonna wake up to this, but let's talk about an individual at the very least. Donald Trump and Elon Musk's quest to eliminate the very idea of somebody working for the government has destroyed a lot of jobs of libs, and the right loves that. It's also fired a lot of conservatives. A lot of people who love Donald Trump, voted for Donald Trump, have also lost their jobs. And for some reason, Fox doesn't seem to care too much about that, but we're gonna talk about it. And we can't cover the stories, the case studies of thousands of these individuals, but let's focus on one who got fired from the USDA on Valentine's Day. And so he put out this letter saying, Donald J. Trump, hello, sir. I am one of the probationary employees terminated by the DOGE at 9 p.m. last night, February 14th. I voted for you, sir, 3 times and I still support you. That hurts. I was encouraged by the doggy to see what they were getting rid of government wasteful spending. I support that too. My termination letter said I was being let go for performance reasons. I know that's not true. I'm an excellent employee. I've been with the federal government for almost 16 years. 16 years in June. I'd started my career with USDA, transferred to DHS, and recently came back to USDA because it's such a great agency to work for. Surely that must count for something in your eyes. I'm loyal, and I firmly believe that the work I do as a USDA, APHIS, PPQ employee is vital and important. My boss, his boss, the managers in neighboring states all agree I'm doing an excellent job and that I'm a great asset to the team. I'm the only redacted in the state of Kentucky, and my work here is valued and honorable. Each time I voted for you, it was because I knew you'd make things right and you'd fix the wrongs. I'm counting on you now to make this right too. Keep counting. You're gonna get into some high numbers there because he does not give one tiny little shriveled, I'm not gonna finish a sentence about you. He doesn't care, not interested. You're not gonna get a reply from him. You're not gonna get a reply from Elon Musk. And even if you did, the thousands of other MAGA voters would not. They've lost their jobs because you guys made the mistake of working hard and being loyal for years. You made the mistake, and I'm being sarcastic. I wish that you had your job. I wish that it would get returned to you. I'm not actually trying to make you feel bad. I'm just describing what's going on. You worked under Biden and Trump and Obama for years. You might have even hit a little bit of George W there. It wasn't a political thing that you were doing. You were just accruing expertise. You were at the USDA and the DHS. You were trying to protect us in a variety of ways. And with all the experience you accrued, the expertise that you had, you were probably doing a damn good job of it. But you were working for the government. And so you're a bad person. That's what I'm told by the MAGA movement. That's what I'm told by right-wing media. Fox never stops reminding me that you're a bad person because you work for the government. You're lazy. You suck off the teat of the government. I don't believe any of that, but they do. They said it before he got elected. They're saying it now. They're not bringing you on Sean Hannity. Jesse Waters isn't gonna interview you. I wish that he would. I think it could be a really important moment for the MAGA movement, but they don't actually care. And we could put up one message, a reply to when BuzzFeed posted the letter. It's right wingers just saying it's a necessary evil. It sucks, whatever. You gotta save the country from bankruptcy, which I guess we were about to experience. And so MAGA people lose their jobs, who the hell cares? I care. I think a lot of progressives care. I know that we disagree on a lot. I would really much prefer you be in that position, making sure that our food is safe, agriculture safe, all of that. But they don't prioritize that stuff. It's time to wake up to that. Sharon, what do you think?
Listen, I think that if you're ever a hostage, do whatever it takes to survive. Say whatever you have to survive. This plea, this desperation to these thugs, the president and co-president, is so unbecoming. Just face it. You backed the wrong person. You backed someone who's been accused in perhaps every decade of his life since adulthood criminality and lying. And this is who you chose to back. And now you're begging them to do the right thing for you. It's unbecoming. I suggest that this person take your lumps like the rest of Americans. Yes, you may end up homeless, without food to eat, begging, but don't beg these thugs. It's just unbecoming at this point. Face it, do better, vote better, stand up, protest, but don't do this.
I still support you. That hurts, man. It hurts. I hurt for you because I'm one of the increasingly rare Americans capable of basic empathy. It hurts me for you. It hurts that you were so deceived by media that you could get through over a decade of Donald Trump and come out of it thinking that he cares about anyone other than himself, or at the very least other billionaires. And we've been broadcasting basically that whole time, trying to make sure that people know that this is the sort of thing that he would do. But again, I'm not trying to rub salt in the wound. I want you to have your job back. And you can have your job back, but it's not gonna be under Donald Trump. No, we need to throw his ass out. Get an actual president who cares about the government, cares about expertise, cares about the skills that you've accrued, and then we can get you back in that job. Feel free to join up. I'd love to see you helped out. Okay, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our second break a little bit early, okay? I see you agree. So we're gonna come back, we're gonna talk about Ukraine on the other side of this. Yeah, it's Baxter's Revenge says in all caps, own me, daddy, I still support you. That's obviously very harsh. No, it's a person, like he's been working in the government for 16 years. So he's what? At least in his 40s probably? Probably got a family. He's out, gone, we're done. We don't care. And also that's the individual damage. But like, I kind of feel like the USDA probably didn't have too many employees to begin with. I don't feel like based on all the recalls and bacterial and all that stuff, I don't feel like they were flush with cash to begin with. So when we're focusing on the individual damage, but all of these agencies, when they throw out the air traffic controllers, when they throw out the FAA, when they throw out the people at the USDA, the nuclear security people, those people were doing something. The government needs to function, okay? You can't run the most advanced country in the history of the world on a skeleton crew, not and have it succeed. Now, I know that they know that. They don't care if it succeeds, but I do for all of our collective sakes. Now, Chaotic Neutral Dragon says in a super chat, I really am scared. I am disabled and unable to work, can't even get on disability. I am also on an SSRI, which we'll be talking about that later on the show. To top all of it off, my parents are maggots. I feel like I'm going crazy over here. Yeah, I try to avoid Facebook because people don't like watching Scott's Tots because you have that secondhand cringe embarrassment. When I see people who believe that Elon Musk is a good guy or a smart guy, it makes me feel so embarrassed for them that I can't take it. The overlap, the overflow embarrassment is too much for me. I don't like to see it. Max Zorro says in a super chat, if you're worried about inflation, there's more and more talk about Canada joining the EU. I'm not sure how much that would increase trade costs for the USA. I've seen a lot of stuff recently about continued boycotts of American products in Canada. And that's gonna hurt a lot of US, that's before the tariffs, by the way. That's just because of the threat of the tariffs. That's gonna do a lot of damage to US corporations. And Donald Trump brought you that because he decided to spit in their eye. Again, chaos and crime. That's what you get with Donald Trump. Buddy Hembry says, it is not inflation happening, it's greed, that's why prices are high. Well, look, I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I would say that the greed is one of the reasons we have the inflation, but tariffs do lead to more inflation. That's just what they always do. So it's a combination of both, I think. Movie Fanatic says, John used Battlestar Galactica language, frack Trump. I'm nerdy enough on the show as it is, I think. But anyway, thank you. Cod Sterling says, Cod thinks he should start cussing freely. I don't want to get banned from the air. Benjamin Morrill says, yes, we fight. Sorry, I got misunderstood. No, I understand your general point. I understand the frustration. Okay. Moondragon says, so we're prosecuting pre-crime now? What is this, Majority Report? Apologies to Sam Cedar. I don't know, does he mention Majority Report a lot on the show? I'm not sure, but yeah, no, but that's the inversion of, it's not law and order. It's unlaw and it's disorder. You can break the law, it doesn't matter, it doesn't count for anything. You do stuff that's totally legal, we will lock you up. That's how the bizarro world legally that we're now in. And Moondragon says, can we normalize using MAGA as an adjective to mean low intelligence? I feel like that's probably pretty well established at this point. But anyway, okay. Geez, there's some rough messages coming in. I'm not sure I can read, but Natalie 802 has been here for 37 months. Thank you, Natalie, I appreciate it. And Ashmanil says, the golden age that Trump was talking about is the golden age arc of Berserk. I haven't actually seen it, but thank you. Okay, everybody, prepare to have your mind blown by utter insanity, starting with this.
I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad.
Yeah, we've now entered into like the most stereotypical 1984 territory ever. That is utterly Orwellian, which tells me that Donald Trump was told to say that because I don't think that he's read Orwell. But when you stand there and say that Ukraine started the war, that's at least two things, neither of them good. One, As has been noted many times, that's the most stereotypical Russian talking point possible. Donald Trump is standing there and he's in the position of an American president, but that's just Vladimir Putin speaking. That's literally all it is. You can say that I'm a bad guy to acknowledge that he's spreading Russian talking points, but that is what he is doing. It's also utterly insane. But like, I need everybody out there to just, like, when you hear something like this, please just don't accept it. I know that there's a lot of crazy stuff going on and it can be very wearing and time passes, but like when they say something that is the exact opposite of the truth, make a mental note of that because they're gonna try to get you to believe insane things. Ukraine was invaded by Russia. We saw it happen. Putin chose to make that decision. He tried to conquer it over a weekend. Now, thankfully, Ukraine fought back. And unfortunately, in the time since, every day of which Vladimir Putin could have decided to just go, just leave. You don't have to be there right now. I read a headline that they were forced to have donkeys deliver their ammunition to their troops. No, they weren't. They are having donkeys deliver their ammunition to their troops, not forced. You could have the donkeys walk towards Moscow and have the soldiers go with them. You could do that. They've chosen not only to initiate this war, but to continue it, devastatingly so for the civilian population of Ukraine and for their own soldiers too, by the way, committing war crimes, using rape as a weapon of war, mass movement of populations. They've been doing all that from the very beginning. And I know that we shouldn't be surprised by anything that Donald Trump says at this point, but it is sickening. It is deeply absurd to see him stand there and say, no, don't believe the evidence of your lying eyes. Ukraine invaded themselves with Russian tanks. That's what actually happened. Now, unfortunately, the backdrop of all this is that he is in charge. If he wants to end the war in Ukraine by just making Ukraine part of Russia, he can and likely will do that. And when he goes to do that, you're gonna find that there aren't as many people on the side of rationality in this conflict as you might think. Here's Harry Enton to break down the numbers.
Holy Toledo, look at this trend line here. US support for Ukraine is too much. Back when the war began, back in February of 2022, it was just 7%. Up like a rocket ship, my goodness. Up now in February of 2025 to 41%.
What about opinions of the Ukrainian president?
Right, obviously, if you would expect changes amongst the public on feelings towards Ukraine, feelings towards Zelensky have changed also dramatically. Look at this. Confident Zelensky will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Back in 2022, it was the clear majority, 72% through the floor. Through the floor by 2024, just 48%.
Okay, I'm glad that we have those numbers. I feel like Harry Enton, in his quest to match Steve Kornacki, is jumping ahead of himself a little bit with the language. Off like a rocket, through the floor. I mean, it's at 48%. That's not as high as 72. I'll grant him that. It's still a higher approval rating than Donald Trump has. So let's be clear about that. The numbers are not where I'd want them to be, but they're also not nearly as bad as they would imply. Either that Harry Enton is implying, or definitely that Donald Trump is. Donald Trump claimed that Zelensky is at a 4% approval rating. Maybe he just forgot to type the second digit in that. Maybe he could acknowledge that he's less popular than Zelensky is. And look, if you believe that we're doing too much to support Ukraine, I understand why more people believe that than used to. The war has dragged on for multiple years. We've spent a lot of money. There's fear that Russia just is never going to surrender, no matter how many troops they lose, no matter how much damage it does to their country, because they are ruled by a dictator who doesn't give a damn about such things. If you believe all that, I understand that. I totally understand that. And I might even understand if Donald Trump came in and was honest and said, look, I think it's barbaric what Vladimir Putin chose to do. I think he's committed clear war crimes. My heart aches for the Ukrainian people and for the Russian soldiers needlessly fed into this wood chipper. But at this point, we have to be realistic, and some concessions will be, you could do that sort of thing. And we could agree or disagree with it, but at least it would be honest from his perspective. That's not what we're getting. Instead, he says Ukraine started the war. Oh, and also, if you're concerned about authoritarianism in this conflict, Zelensky is the dictator. He literally said that. Now, I'm not gonna read the entire bleat because it's way too long. All of this is utterly mad. What he says about Vladimir Zelensky, who survived and did for his country 1,000 times more than Donald Trump ever would. Donald Trump wouldn't help us. He couldn't help us get through a soggy paper bag, let alone what Zelensky has survived and done for his country. But he not only attacks him, he says he refuses to have elections as his country is mid-invasion, which, by the way, look, I would love elections, but typically when countries are invaded, you don't see a lot of them for a few years. That's kind of what happens. And he's a dictator. Now, look, he's saying these insane things about Zelensky. Have you ever seen him talk about Vladimir Putin in this way? Zelensky's a dictator? What about Putin? Zelensky should have elections? Should Putin have an election every once in a while? His country isn't being invaded. They could have an actual free and fair election for the first time in decades if they wanted to. And by the way, you know how I know that Vladimir Zelensky is not a dictator? Because right now, Donald Trump isn't humping his leg as hard as he can. If we had definitive footage of Zelensky getting up from a chair and Donald Trump burying his nostrils in the cushion, then yes, I might believe that he's a dictator. But I haven't seen that yet, and so I think that Donald Trump is protesting too much. So there's a lot of madness there, Sharon, and I apologize for the evocative language, but what do you make of this?
I love it when you talk like that. It's brilliant. Listen, it's all full of lies. We get it. You don't like Ukraine and its current duly elected leader, and you find him to be a comedian because he would not do what you wanted him to do with Hunter Biden, okay? And you're holding a grudge and you're not gonna give in, but you are gonna demand some more minerals and treasures from Ukraine just to kind of stay semi-neutral, but you're not really gonna be neutral because you want them to give it all up and allow, well, Putin to just restock and get his army back together so that he could just keep going and storm his way through all of Europe. That is exactly what Donald Trump is doing, and he's doing it with lies. If you want to believe that, believe it. It's the Republicans will. They'll rubber stamp. Are now. What is Marco Rubio again? What's his title now? Because he was part of the club. They just said, oh, you're in. And you were really nice to me about a bathroom break when I was getting ready to bring my daughter to the Senate. So we confirm you. He's horrible too. He's an 100%. Election denier. And now he's rubber stamping it as well. Marco Rubio. It's a joke. He's still little Marco, okay? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and by the way, if you are a person out there that's like, you know what, I wish Ukraine wasn't being invaded, I wish it wasn't gonna be conquered, but it's just too much, I want peace. I understand philosophically how you feel. I want it too. I'm not gonna give credit to Donald Trump for getting peace in this case. Anybody could have given Ukraine away to a despot. That's not difficult to do. But also, I need you to understand, if they do this, you are not getting peace out of this. You might be getting a temporary cessation of hostilities in Ukraine. It'll be invaded in the next year or two after that, and he'll finish the job. And this will be all of the indication Putin needs to know that he can start invading other former Soviet republics, and he will do so. I don't know if it's Finland, I don't know if it's Poland, I don't know which one it's gonna be next, but that is now his sphere of influence. Donald Trump has said you can do whatever the hell you want. It's yours. And that's not even the only war you're gonna get, because that will also be part of the deal where Russia gets its sphere of influence and we do. And we can invade Greenland and we can invade Poland and maybe we make Canada the 51st state. This is a recipe for potentially world war, maybe 2 world wars at the same time, where we conquer one half, they conquer the other half. This is the farthest thing imaginable from peace. Now, we need to end the hour with one more story. Let's jump when we're ready to this.
And I was at the bottom of my class. I started doing heroin. I went to the top of my class. Suddenly I could sit still and I could read.
Oh, I'm glad you could read. The dude who's now in charge of healthcare in the United States. He just needed to get leveled out with a little bit of heroin and suddenly he could concentrate, not learn. Never that, but concentrate. And now he's in a position to, I don't know, tie one on and go wild on American healthcare, and that's what he's going to do. He just told a room packed with federal health workers, those that remain at this point, that he's planning to, quote, investigate whether the timing of childhood vaccinations and anti-depression medications are among several possible factors in the nation's problem with chronic diseases. Nothing is gonna be off limits for his investigation. So he's investigating. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to figure out what he thinks. Oh, he's gonna look into it and then he's gonna decide with an open mind after decades of anti-vax BS. I wonder what he's gonna think. So, if your kids need vaccines or if you're on antidepressants, you might wanna stockpile a little bit because unfortunately, Mr. Heroin Study Break is probably gonna take a pretty dim view on it in the near future. And so he told staff you need to keep an open mind about all this. Okay, we will convene representatives of all viewpoints. Representatives of all viewpoints. Do you know what that means? Crackpot conspiracy theorists, that's what that means. To study the causes for the drastic rise in chronic disease, some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. Conspiracy theories. That's what he's saying. Wild conspiracy theories from discredited crackpots. That's it. But don't worry, only your health and life are on the line, so it's fine. And he wants to look into, again, childhood vaccines, which he had said in his in his hearing. I support vaccines. I support the vaccine schedule. I support good science. Lie and lie and lie. That's 3 strikes of lies. But unfortunately, he's not out. He's in, which in this case is much worse. So he lied. And it's too late to do anything about that. Susan Collins, does she feel bad about this? That she was once again duped by one of the people she chose to support? No, he's in that position for 4 years. And he's gonna look into a lot of stuff. Electromagnetic radiation. Alex Jones will be very happy to hear that. Herbicides and pesticides, ultra-processed foods, artificial food, allergies, microplastics, and long-lasting chemicals used in the production of nonstick pans, the PFAS chemicals. And so this is the best of what you get, is you get some stuff that's an actual threat, microplastics, that sort of thing. And then you get absolute loony bin ravings. And I personally think you can just have the actual stuff, the actual science. We could just do that. We don't need to also let loose the asylum and have them run through HHS. But unfortunately, that's what we've got. And a lot of people use this stuff, the vaccines, the SSRIs, and now that stuff is potentially gonna go away. Sharon, what do you think?
He's not just a quack, okay? He believes a lot of the things that he's saying that are just scientifically unsound. And there's other things that a reasonable person can agree with. Nonstick pans and some other things that processed foods we should clean up. They're hurting our health. But he's not just a quack in these other areas. He's a bit of a charlatan, because I'm concerned about what Senator Elizabeth Warren raised during the confirmation hearings. It's attached to money.
Yep.
And kickbacks, really, legal ones, but kickbacks. And I also think that Susan Collins, who's the easiest senator to dupe, how does she keep getting reelected? Although we do need her a little bit. She's just the easiest person. Why not bring him up for perjury or something? Do something. Just show that you're not gonna be lied to, or you can just sign off on that too. Say, well, it's okay to lie to Congress, we're fine. He's a charlatan. Okay.
100%. Yeah, no, and I'm very glad that you brought that up, because I was probably not gonna mention the utter corruption. But he's not just a crackpot. He's not just, running on what's left that the heroin or the worms didn't get rid of already. He's also making money off of this. And that is, again, one of the through lines of this administration is the most wildly corrupt administration perhaps in the history of our country, certainly in the last century. And he stands to make huge amounts of money off of this. Again, when you put the billionaires and the elites in charge, you cannot be surprised when they formulate the government to only advance their own interests. That's unfortunately all the time we have for the first hour of the show, but there's a lot to talk about on the other side, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Aftermath. That's all the break you get. We're jumping back into the news in just a sec. But first, I'm going to read a few comments. Let's see. Greg Morrison says, Trump and Putin are leading us to the plot line of the old movie Robot Jocks, Russia and America Control the World. I have not seen that one. I'll have to ask Bart about it. I'm sure that he has. Let's see. Art Vandalay says in a super chat, happy B-Day to Tracy Ravenhawk. Happy birthday. That's awesome. Love to see it. Empath Dragon says, has anyone checked on the OSHA inspectors? What OSHA inspectors? It's not gonna be a thing. That doesn't benefit corporations, doesn't benefit the board. 32 Antoine says, Mike Pence just called Trump out for lying about the Ukraine-Russia war. Good. It doesn't matter. I mean, but sure, fine. I guess that's something. Here, let's have 30 Republican senators call him out for lying about the origin of the war. I'd like to see that. Let's have them say, you know what, in exchange for that, you're not getting your next 3 nominees. Give us new people. Let's have them do something. But thank you for letting me know that. I do appreciate that. John Fox gifted a membership, which is super nice. Thank you. Cloud Dragon has been a member for 34 months. Empath Dragon has been one for 43 months. And Art Vandalay just gifted another membership. How nice of you. And in exchange for that, we're gonna do another story, which starts now. Kind of sucks when the worst person you know makes an indisputably good point, especially when that person is Steve Bannon, because he's been mad for quite a while about Elon Musk and same. So he said recently, Musk is a parasitic illegal immigrant. He wants to impose his freak experiments and play act as God without any respect for the country's histories, values, or traditions. And that is a line that Steve Bannon is not gonna cross. He's not interested in Elon Musk play acting as God without any respect for the country's histories, values, or traditions. He wants Donald Trump to play act as God without any respect for the country's history, values, or traditions. And he won't accept anything less. So he's actually mad about him. And in particular, he's mad about something that Elon Musk isn't doing that in theory I'd be down for. He says doggy is sitting there with the budget, but where the F are the doggy cuts? We are 30 days away from approving a budget for the entire year with $2 trillion already baked in and not 1 penny of anything that doggy found. It's ludicrous. I noticed there is a hesitancy to cross the Potomac and go to the Pentagon. I would like to see 100 billion taken off the 900 billion budget right now, which is really $1 trillion. So he wants the military budget to be cut. And I'm glad that he now supports that. He would have called Bernie Sanders a raging communist if he'd proposed that back in the day, but now he likes it, so that's good. And they're not doing that. They're not doing, maybe they will at some point. I don't rule it out. I mean, Elon Musk is in no way gonna hamper any of the billions of dollars he gets from the military, but he might be perfectly happy to see his competitors lose out on some contracts. I think his corruption could actually line up with our policy objectives there. But that said, it's all hypothetical. He's not doing any of that. He's not doing anything remotely on that scale. And we're gonna jump into the actual numbers later on the show. But no, he's going after transgender comic books for $20,000 or whatever. You think he's cutting $100 billion that goes to defense contractors? Get the hell out of here. But he does say it's pretty evident the president's using him as an armor-piercing shell that's delivering blunt force trauma against the administrative state. That's the sort of like fake Ivy League abstract language Steve Bannon uses to cloak the fact that he just doesn't want the government to function. So he's okay, I guess, in Elon Musk in that particular way. But in general, he's not a fan of him. He called him an evil person last month. And in return, Elon Musk has not been quite as fired up to talk about Steve Bannon, probably because he's busy getting into government systems and probably robbing us of all of our money. But he did say recently, Bannon is a great talker, but not a great doer. What did he get done this week? Nothing. And Elon Musk did get a lot more done. The government is way less capable of functioning than it was a week ago, and you gotta give Musk credit for that. Bannon had nothing to do with that. Sharon, what do you think?
Yeah, Musk is busy hanging out with he's like akin to a gamer. These young kids, the Bulls guy, that's his online profile, something like that. Steve Bannon, first of all, it takes one to know one. He's called an evil individual or something like that, and Steve Bannon would know. But I think Elon Musk doesn't want to engage with him because Steve Bannon is dark, devious, and he does have, sadly, I believe, a high IQ, and he uses it to be evil and devious and do things like steal border funds, to build a wall. There's not going to be a wall, but he's going to get millions of dollars. Listen, I love this fight between these two. I love it. Steve Bannon never wanted to be happy. He never wanted to be happy. And Elon Musk doesn't understand what happiness is or sharing or empathy or anything like that. So as far as I'm concerned, they should just keep going at it. There's some kind of Game of Thrones and just cancel each other out. Perhaps even people could have dinner theater over it, watch it. But they just, you two, if you can engage each other and leave the rest of us out of it, that would be great. It'd be great.
Like medieval times, but with the two least physically capable men in history going at it.
We'll put a bull in there too.
By the way, can we put up that last tweet that we had where Elon Musk responded to Ian Miles Chong, where he's giving Elon Musk all this credit for what DOGE is doing? Why are you giving Elon Musk that credit? We were just told he's not in charge. In fact, we don't even get to know who's in charge. It's somebody, but it's not Elon Musk. Isn't that weird? It's almost like they're lying to us. Also, you brought up the big balls thing. See, he calls himself Big Balls because he's bold. He's not one of these soy boy beta cucks, okay? He's Big Balls. So Big Balls, why don't we see the balls? I mean, they're so big. You're so confident. You're so full of yourself. Let's see the balls. Let's see if you have the balls to actually go with the handle. I mean, you're not one of these soy boy leftists. You're a strong man, a bold man, an alpha man. And I know that because you spend all your time hanging out with Elon Musk. So let's see the balls. Hashtag show your balls. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna move on to other news, although we will be talking about DOGE a little bit more. And as always, all credit for that goes to Francesca Fiorentini, as everyone watching knows. I just wanted to read at one point, Betty Pooper said, did John grow a gray hair during this segment? Yeah, they gotta be growing at some point, and so why not during the show? I'm experiencing the Barack Obama in real time, I think. And anyway, Missy says, one fine morning we'll wake up to his obituary. Yeah, I mean, look, someday, Vladimir Putin's pretty old. Someday we're gonna wake up and he'll have died. That's gonna be a great day. Other dictators too, but let's start with Vladimir Putin, how about that? Okay, with that said, let's jump. I'm gonna try not to lose it in this case. I'm trying not to, I need to maintain a little bit of color in my hair, so I'm trying not to lose it. But let's jump into this. Anybody with a pulse could have probably guessed that DOGE was never gonna reach the $1 to $2 trillion in cuts that they were promising. But the lies necessary to make you falsely believe that they're doing something, at least finding some waste, are getting really sloppy and less believable with every passing day. They say that they've produced savings for American taxpayers of $55 billion. But the total that they provide, which is itself incredibly questionable, only adds up to a third of that figure. So literally nobody knows how they're coming up with $55 billion. And I honestly think that the third is also a massive lie. And we're gonna get into the numbers, but we are gonna have to set aside a couple of things. The first thing we're gonna have to set aside is them calling it savings for the American taxpayers. You see the little word game they're playing there? Just because they cut it doesn't mean it's a savings to us. If I went in and blocked you from buying food for yourself, you're spending less money, but is it a savings? So that spending might well be necessary. And also, what if I took the money you spent on food and I just took it and gave it in tax cuts to rich people? Have you saved anything? I mean, the money didn't get to go to the services that you perhaps needed, but it's not like it went back to you. So don't let them play these little word games. Best case scenario, it's cuts of $55 billion, which will do all sorts of damage, considering their cuts to the FAA, the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, nuclear safety. This is not a savings, this is just less services. So let's be clear about that. But if we set that aside, the numbers are also themselves incredibly suspicious. And so they claimed credit for the closure of 2 government offices that were actually shuttered under Joe Biden in last August. So they want credit for the National Archive Centers in Hoffman States, Illinois, and in Fairfield, Ohio being shut down. They were already shut down. Why are you including that in your cuts? Why aren't you giving credit to Joe Biden for getting rid of wasteful government spending? Weird that. That appears to have now been taken down from the website after the fact checking, so that's good, I guess. Some of the cuts on the website are listed as cuts, but show $0 in savings. So here's an example. The Department of Health and Human Services no longer enjoys dry ice. At first glance, the savings are over $100,000, but when you click for additional details, there's $0 in savings, which is strange to me. If you've stopped paying over $100,000, how do we not have the savings of $100,000? Again, setting aside that it's not even a savings, where did that money go exactly? Seems a little strange. Maybe we'll find that out at some point. Now, the biggest cuts have been towards USAID. Not surprisingly, they keep talking about it. They say they've saved $655 million, okay? And all we had to give up was American soft power throughout the globe. All we had to do was cede influence and authority to Russia and China. That's all we had to give up for that. Except that we didn't even get that, because when you actually dive into the specifics, they seem to be triple counting the savings. It's not $655 million. I mean, it's not savings, but it's also not even that number. They've just tripled it for some reason. And by the way, it's not even a contract. In the first 5 years of what they've listed, only $73 million was awarded over 5 years, and there's only 2 years remaining. So what is that? Maybe $50 million? Why are they multiplying it by like 13 times, if not to just make the number seem bigger than it was? But that's not even the biggest lie they've told. The single biggest line item that DOGE has cited is a massive $8 billion contract with DNG Support Services for program and technical support services for Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. Now, what they're hoping for is that you see diversity and civil rights, you're like, you don't need to tell me anymore. That's black and brown stuff. I don't want it. Get rid of it. Except it's not $8 billion. It's closer to $8 million. So they just decided that billion sounds better than million. Now, I know that they worship billionaires, but you can't just invent a billion to make it sound better. And so with the tripling of the USAID, the 8 billion that's made up there, what is that 55 billion even supposed to represent at the end of the day? They've done a lot of damage. I guess they fired a lot of people. There's no transgender comics to be found, but the savings aren't adding up at all, Sharon. What do you think?
Well, the math ain't mathin'. You laid it out, and I wasn't great. I mean, I took calculus. I don't even know what my grade was, but I passed. I went on to college, okay? The math ain't mathin', and why are they doing it? For the same reason Tom Cruise puts reportedly those lifts in his shoes, and why some men wear padded undergarments, women too, for another reason, because they want it to look big, okay? And they don't want you to peel back the curtain and say, wait a minute, you didn't save me anything. You actually are taking from me. You're hurting me here. And if you're fortunate enough to be due a tax refund, good luck.
Oh my God.
I can't wait till those stories start pouring in. There's a lot of people who depend on those. They actually depend. It's not like, we get to go on a vacation even. It's like, I depend on those to live. Good luck. The math ain't mathin'.
Good luck. Yeah, 100%. And they fired 15,000 people at the IRS. So it's going to be harder for you to actually go through the process. It's all going to take longer, and the rich are going to skate by with far fewer audits and investigations for their incredibly complex tax returns. And by the way, there's a point that was made in the chat. I'm going to reword it a little bit, but do you know what you have when you take $8 billion and you subtract $8 million from it? $8 billion, that's what you have, because 8 million is nothing of 8 billion. It's all made up. And it's not just a lie in terms of the savings. It's a lie about they want you to think we're spending a lot on DEI. We're not. It's not billions and billions of dollars. That's not actually a thing. It's not nearly as important as they would have you believe. So why are they lying to you about that? Think about that just for a second or two.
John.
And that said, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I apologize. Is this like the same thing where they said, transgender athletes were taking all the money from cis girls? Is this, because it kind of seems like it's on repeat here, where they're saying, you're losing all your scholarships to transgender athletes. It's like the same thing, kind of, yes?
There's like 4 athletes in the country. By the way, Galfar says there are plenty of transgender comics out there. I was not making a serious point about whether they exist. I was making a sarcastic point about the funding from the USA. And it wasn't even the USAID, it was State Department about a transgender comic. I'm not actually critiquing comics here. Anyway, with that said, let's turn now to this. You hear a lot these days about waste and fraud and abuse. The government is wildly spending money on all this BS that doesn't benefit the American people. And everybody's looking for the waste, the fraud, and abuse. Now, I don't technically work for DOGE, I don't, but you know what? I think I've identified a little bit of waste, fraud, and abuse, and I think it would be very easy to get rid of it, actually. $10.7 million that's been spent on Donald Trump playing golf, not so far in all of the time that he's been president, just this term. It has not been 1 month yet, and he has spent nearly $11 million so he can play golf. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, how the hell could a trip to play golf one time cost that much money. No, but that's the thing. He has not gone to play golf once. He has gone to play golf every single weekend that he has been president so far. 4 separate trips to play golf. And he's now played at his own properties on 9 of his first 30 days in office. So look, credit to him, he's still doing a lot of damage to the government. He's still wrecking things. He's still driving up prices really fast, even though he's spent nearly a third of his presidency on golf courses. But yeah, each time that he takes a trip, for instance, to Mar-a-Lago, it costs $3.4 million. And so that adds up to almost $11 million already. You extrapolate that out over the course of his entire second term, we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars so he can be carted around the golf course and cheat at golf. And that's, by the way, not all of the trips he's taken. His trip to the Super Bowl. How many millions of dollars did that cost? The trip for him to fly the beast to Daytona so he could have his ass driven in circles around a track. How many millions of dollars did that cost? How many transgender operas could you pay for with the amount of money we're spending so he can fiddle around on the fairway? A lot of money already. And meanwhile, everybody's squirreled. They're looking at Doggy. And Doggy's they're finding the DEI and they're finding USAID is wasting money. Every single weekend, he's spending millions of dollars. This weekend, he will spend over $3 million so he can play golf. And you're paying for that. If you're a MAGA person, you voted for him, maybe you're fine. Hell, you've been transferring money to him for literally years, but you are paying for him to do that. And by the way, we were just going over the DOGE cuts that they've made, and we can see it in another clip. How many of those do you need to find just to offset his golf budget so far? Anyway, Sharon, we can't be surprised. He did this all throughout his first term. We paid for him to play golf dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but he's doing it again.
Yeah, and don't forget, I'm gonna mention Live Golf again with the Saudis. He's making personal deals that are gonna, one thing that the Trumps have is golf courses, okay? I don't know if they're good, they're bad, whatever. I know he doesn't look good playing golf, okay? But I'm not trying to make personal physical observations here, it's frowned upon. But that's what they do. He's turning over this American treasure of a sport, if you're into it, to the Saudis and making deals for himself. That's what, and we're picking up the tab. And the Secret Service and everybody who follows him has to stay at the properties and this and that. And listen, he's gonna do the same thing over in Gaza once it's gifted to him, the waterfront property that Jared's gonna have, and Ivanka will probably have some prime real estate there too. What more do you need to know?
100%, yeah. Absolutely insane. And if you're a MAGA person, you know that Donald Trump's a billionaire, right? Like he's just a billionaire off of the meme coin. You know when he did the rug pull and took all your money? He's a billionaire. He could just pay for it, right? Why can he not pull himself up by his bootstraps? Why doesn't he pay for his golf trips? Why is he demanding, insisting that the American taxpayer pay for him to have a hobby literally every weekend? To go play golf literally every week, not once a year, twice a year with his family, a fun little trip to relax. The job's really stressful. Every single weekend, we have to pay millions of dollars so he can play golf. Why are you okay with that? But that said, if you're okay with that, you're probably also fine with the video we're gonna show you, which is devastating. I apologize in advance, but take a look at this. Yeah, so that video was released by the White House on Twitter, and the video already probably strikes most sane people as odd. Is captioned ASMR, illegal alien deportation flight. You get it? Because the sounds of them being chained make noises, and that's their version of ASMR. Now, sane people are probably wondering, wait, why do these people need to be chained on the military flights that cost millions of dollars? Why there's guards right there. Why don't they be chained? To make videos like this. Because there's unfortunately millions of Americans who will watch that. And they'll click like with one hand. The other hand will be busy as they watch it, but they'll click like with that hand because they like the idea that these migrants are being chained up. Even though we know the nature of the migrants that are being deported. We know that they're science teachers, they're women who sell empanadas, they're people who've been accused of shoplifting. Maybe it's American citizens being sent down to El Salvador with that cool little deal that Donald Trump set up for American citizens to go to their supermax prisons there. But okay, if you don't show their faces, it's fun, it's ASMR. This is the sort of like wild cruelty that has nothing to do with American national security, has nothing to do with our immigration system. It's fetishizing getting rid of the bad people, the second-class citizens. That's all it is, Sharon, to me at least. What do you make of this?
Yeah, and it's especially sick and torturous to watch. And as a Black American, it harkens me back to what I've learned in the history books before so many were banned. Let's have these public lynchings. Let's do this, and we'll have drinks, and ladies will come in their fine dresses and those cinched waists, and they will have their children there while a Black man is lynched and suffers, and they cut off body parts because that, I didn't say anybody was killed here. But this is the kind of pleasure that what American, if you're conditioned to think this is good and it pleasures you, you're getting some kind of endorphins from this, you're a sicko. This is sick. And we need mass counseling here. I mean, they've got to have strong degrees in trauma and how to dial it back, unpack it. Sick.
Absolutely sick. And it's this sort of stuff is the goal of it is to get people to be as heartless as a Stephen Miller. Don't think of these people as people. They're not people anymore. It doesn't matter if they were contributing to your community, they were building houses. Literally doesn't matter. They're bad because of who they are. This is fundamentally identity politics. It's all it is. It's xenophobia, it's hatred intended to distract you from the actual agenda, which is tax cuts for billionaires. But you should hate these people. And that's why we're seeing stories like the woman calling the cops on a woman selling empanadas, because you've been told by the regime, you're better than these people. You can now wield the threat of law enforcement and deportation against anyone with a skin color 1 or 2 tones darker than yours, and you can have fun with that. And if you're an adult, you can be a Karen, you can have fun with that. If you're a school kid, you can have fun with that, because we're gonna jump ahead, because there is an 11-year-old girl, there was an 11-year-old girl in Texas who was bullied for weeks about her family's immigration status and threats to report them to ICE. And she ended up taking her own life, which is already one of the worst stories I've literally ever heard. But it gets slightly worse in that she had been meeting with a school counselor for weeks. Her family was never notified about the bullying. Now look, can we control what every 3rd, 4th, 5th grader is going to do? No, we can't. But what we can do is not have the most powerful and richest people in society telling America there's nothing better, nothing more deeply patriotic than hating Black and brown people. And that is unfortunately the message that we're getting. It is awesome that we have an industrial system of mass deportation and concentration camps. It's great that accused shoplifters will end up in Guantanamo Bay. It rocks that we're splitting up families once again. That is the message being sent to every American, and some of them like that message. They get off on that message, and then they will act on it. They'll wield ICE, they'll wield law enforcement as weapons against people they don't like. I'm not talking hypothetically, it is already happening. Sharon, any final thoughts before we close?
No, I just, come on, America. I understand. There's a lot going on. People have a lot of things to do. And should the burden be ours? No, but maybe it should. We allowed this to happen, okay? This is our problem to fix, and it's time to fix it. And I mean, go all the way, like Mr. Bowles, whatever the handle was. If he can go big, we can go bigger, okay? These people are sickos, they're tyrants, and they're disgusting. And I said this yesterday on Dr. Richie's show, and I'll say it again here. I'm tired of the intellectual dishonesty. This is not like, we're not talking about theories here. We're talking about real life matters, and AOC has it right. Fight, bring it on, indict me, and let's take this thing all the way. That's what we should all be doing. We should all pause and get after that.
100%. I could not agree more. And I wish we had more time to talk about this. We unfortunately are up against the end of the show, but we will be picking up this conversation tomorrow with Francesca Fiorentini. For now, Sharon, as always, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And you're not, there's no more grays. You're youthful. So just stop it. All right, you're fine.
See it. The light catches it.
You're fine.
Anyway, thank you. It's the least of my worries right now, thankfully. Anyway, with that said, thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. Francesca's gonna be here tomorrow. I think inaccurately said that Brett's gonna be here this Friday. He's not. He's gonna be taking a little bit of time off, which he well deserves. But Daria is gonna be joining us this Friday for her, I believe, first ever garbage person of the week. So that'll be a lot of fun. And as I'd previously said, tomorrow after the aftermath, 30 minutes after it, we'll be doing our members hangout. Spread the word. Hopefully we can get everybody in there and we'll hang out then. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.